The following episode will contain spoilers. You have been warned.
You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? Buckle up for Kneecap as Amber and Scott take a wild ride through the Irish language hip-hop scene, where music, politics and rebellion collide, and how a trio from Belfast turned controversy into a movement. And now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
Alrighty, so this week we are talking about Kneecap. And let me fill you all in on what this is about. When fate brings Belfast schoolteacher JJ into the orbit of self-confessed low-life scum, Naos and Liam, the needle drops on a hip-hop act like no other. Rapping in their native Irish language, Kneecap fast becomes the unlikely figureheads of a civil rights movement to save their mother tongue.
That was a very interesting movie in that I had to read a lot.
Yeah, well, they did speak in Irish for a good chunk of it, so there was subtitles there. And then I know you actually have a hard time just understanding accents as a whole, and will generally use captions.
They talk funny.
Yeah. So between the Irish language and then the English language with the Irish accent, it was definitely a opportunity to read a lot.
Yes, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've seen plenty of subtitle movies and it's perfectly fine. Yeah, it's kind of interesting here because you think about native languages and things dying out, and like a lot of that stuff is like African nations where there's like a village that speaks something and that's it. And because they even made the point at the end that a native language dies out every 40 days.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
That is because of how many freaking languages there are in Africa that are still used, but you don't really think about it so much as like actually Irish.
Right, and that was the plot for this film, is a sect of people who wanted to keep the Irish language alive. So there was two languages spoken in Ireland, English, which was the primary language brought by England, and Irish, which only 1% of the Irish population spoke, which is about 30,000 people. So it was this battle of trying to, number one, make Irish a recognized language, which actually came to be last year, and this film takes place a couple years ago. And also the effort to make Irish, I guess almost, trendy or relevant by bringing it into rap music.
I mean, certainly music has that ability to do that and get the masses behind something, an idea, in this case, a language. Yeah, I mean, for sure the Irish of the northern variety have never particularly liked being a part of the whole UK thing.
They do not.
They prefer to not blend in. They would like to.
They want to be recognized for their own country.
Speak Gaelic and bomb things.
Well, I don't think they want to bomb things. They want to be an independent country. But without getting into the politics here, I think one of the interesting points of this film, as we look at things from a what would you do standpoint, is the guy who was the school teacher, JJ. So he just kind of stumbled into meeting these two guys who did a lot of drugs, had since they were young, and didn't contribute much to society. They just kind of hung out and weren't really doing much. And the school teacher winds up being an interpreter for one of them when he's arrested at a club, and they wind up forming this bizarre friendship. And the school teacher, JJ, he's kind of into music. Like, he's always wanted to be a musician, and he teaches music at a school. Yeah. But this presents an opportunity for him to be a part of a band. And initially, he doesn't want anyone to know.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was because he got that guy's book when he was being questioned, right. And he actually went through it and started looking, and was like, holy crap, you actually have something here with these lyrics. Like, this actually slaps. Is that what the kids say, slaps?
I don't know.
I think they say slaps.
Do they? Yeah, so he wound up basically paying producer and DJ for the two main characters. And the thing that I thought was noteworthy is his girlfriend notices a change in him, and she doesn't realize what he's doing, but he seems happier. And it's basically because he was doing something he liked. And it was something that initially he had to hide and didn't want anyone to know he was doing, didn't want to have that association, and still wanted to maintain his day job and go to school and teach. But after he was fired and then his girlfriend broke up with him, he committed to being in the band after he had recently quit because it was just too much. And it brings up an interesting topic of doing things that you really want to do in life and suppressing that interest.
I mean, it's a form of masking in a way. I mean, like generally in couples, the we does not directly mirror either the I or the you. Like you and I are two different people, and what we would do completely separate from each other is probably different from what we do when we're together as a couple and who we are. Like we both make compromises towards the other person, which we're both, I think, in general, happy to do. I think this might have over exaggerated the happiness part of it. See, like I'm generally happy, like moving closer towards you and who you are. I think that there may have been a little bit more in the way of, I don't want to say resentment, but like it was probably good for him to not be in that relationship.
Well, they had the conflict of she was trying to get a bill passed that would make the Irish language official and recognized. And the band Kneecap, which her boyfriend was secretly in, was actually kind of damaging that effort because they were making the Irish language controversial because their songs were about drugs. And it was just, it was creating a lot of frenzy.
Yeah, but you know what? I think this kind of falls under the category of no such thing as bad press.
I don't know if I agree with that. If you're trying to get something passed and the thing that you're trying to get passed is also being touted as a drug vehicle.
Well, you want to get people using the language, and that is one way to do so. It might not be maybe the best way, but it does sort of get people into that a little bit more. So yes, while it may not be the optimal press, bad press is still better than no press in general. So
I don't know. I think she was getting some press for the cause, but we'll agree to disagree on that one. So these two guys, they kind of just fall into this, but this was always JJ's, I don't want to say dream, but he was always interested in music. And so they actually wind up being successful, and they're actually still a band today because the actors are actually the members of Kneecap that were in this film. I mean, have you ever had any time in life where there was something you wanted to do but didn't have the opportunity until just something out of the blue presented itself?
Yeah, actually, I mean, I guess for me, in a way, it was a reinvention of an old persona. Like, so I used to play Magic the Gathering on a semi-pro level. I did that from basically 95, 96-ish through roughly about 2001. And then I ended up doing my business. I realized I couldn't be a full-time competitive player and really put together a business at the same time. And I knew where the money was, so I went and ran the business. And I basically gave up on all of that. And even once I sold my business, I probably had a good 4-year, if you will, detox period where I just didn't do anything noteworthy within the gaming space. And in 2013, I had an opportunity to host a radio show about gaming, and it kind of got me back into gaming in general. And I'm like, I like gaming. I love talking about it. How about we just get back into it? And of course, my roots being in Magic the Gathering, that is an area I went to. I knew a lot of people. I knew a bunch of things. And so I said, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, how about we screw around a little bit here and I'll play some higher level tournaments.
Okay.
And the first one I went to was it was just like a format I'd never played before at all. And I put together this deck. I ended up winning a small tournament the night before, which got me an advantage for day one. And that got me into day two, where I got absolutely demolished. finished. Like these tournaments, day 1 and day 2 are different things. So I'm like, okay, well, whatever. That's just, I got lucky a little bit. And then the next one was like the largest card game tournament ever, 4,492 players.
Oh, wow.
In there. And it was in Vegas. I mean, it's like, it was a fun party. It was a little bit more my speed. So I just said, screw it. I mean, I go down there, do some filming because I want to do stuff for the show. And a 13-2, I think it was 13-2, maybe it was, 13-2 record later, I've once again now qualified for the professional tour, which I truly didn't think I would ever do again. So, and then even on top of that, before I even went to that stop, I qualified for the stop after it at another tournament. And like, this was insane as far as I was concerned, because I was not putting in the work you needed to be able to do that. And I thought this dream was dead. I wasn't going anywhere with it. I always kind of wanted to, but all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like a phoenix from the ashes, I'm a pro Magic player again, which was really surreal to have that dream pop back up and literally out of nowhere, like we said. Sorry, I know that was a long tangent, but...
Yeah, no, but it's relevant. It's a matter of being open to opportunities and being receptive to what life throws your way, even if it's not what you had planned, right?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you can come out ahead on that. Like, no matter what you were thinking, I mean, I was thinking, okay, I'll just host this little podcast and it'd be fun, but it ended up turning into something so much more. I mean, it got me traveling to Europe several times, and I mean, all throughout North America. I mean, I went to Mexico 3 times, and I never would have thought I was going to do that. All over the U.S. Like, it was a great, I guess in a way, like a last hurrah, because when I had to quit the first time, it really was more pressure to make the money. And this kind of, it in a way, it allowed me to finish it more on my terms. I mean, I still didn't completely go out on my terms, but mostly I did. So it was a nice way to put an exclamation point on that part of everything. But yeah, I've always said, be very open to what opportunities present themselves in life. So
I think another something that I got out of the film is if you want to stand for something, or if you have an agenda to push, or if you want to enlighten the masses, you don't always have to go the traditional route. These guys basically promoted Irish as a language and the usage of Irish as a language through rap music, through hip hop. Well, I guess more hip hop.
Yeah.
And even though they would like throw drugs out to the audience and, basically almost do a scene from the Wolf of Wall Street where you're just wading through a bunch of cocaine, they actually did wind up making this a topic to audiences who never would have been discussing maintaining and using the Irish language.
Yeah. And you're completely right. Like, the vehicle sometimes it can be very non-traditional, but if the people can recognize when something is a vehicle and they're able to actually do something with it, then, I mean, you know me, I'm very much an outside the box thinker on everything. So figure out, it may not be the path you most want, or it may not be the path you thought you were going to go with, but if it ends up working, then, run with it. I mean, that's the same thing with life. When you see something working, run with it.
Yeah. Once upon a time, before social media was really a thing, guerrilla marketing used to be a thing. And that was just really creative out of the box way of getting your message in front of people. And now, obviously, the climate's changed because anyone can get out any message at any given time in any myriad of platforms. But being creative, and doing something eye-catching.
Well, so that actually reminds me about those billboards that are around town for LA area, Jacob and Ronnie. Yes, which is an inside joke with her and I. But
so Jacob and Ronnie is a lawyer.
Yes. So if you see these, he has a lot of his billboards where like it's literally like upside down or in mirror type, or it is something that when you just look at it, you're like, what the, like, did somebody screw up?
Right. And you stop and you try and figure out what it is, and then you actually make a note of Jacob and Ronnie.
Exactly. You see that and you're like, okay, and that sticks in your head. And I feel like that's a wonderful example of guerrilla marketing, and maybe that's what happened. It's entirely possible that at some time somebody effed up and put up one billboard upside down on accident, and he ended up being like, "Oh shit, that gets people's attention," or maybe it was just thought. I don't know, but now it's like a trademark for him. You see it like almost all the time on all of his billboards now.
Yeah.
So I like the guerrilla marketing. I like whatever gets people's attention. And especially in 2024, it is so hard to get people's attention.
Yeah.
That whatever you can find that gets it, whether it's an upside down billboard or it's Irish rap music, you do what you can.
Yeah. Yeah. So be creative, be unique, and always be open to opportunity.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, that's my opinion. So I guess let's put the raps on this here. Dun-dun-dun, psh, raps.
Oh, well, it was really hip hop. Sorry. I didn't get the joke.
Okay. Let's put the hip hops on this.
Yeah. Hippity hip hop.
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release 2 to 3 episodes weekly, so we'll have new content regularly. Until next time.